Hello, and welcome back to Marriage for Dummies. I'm Kiki, and this is my husband,
Andre.
All right, so pretty much what we do here is just talk about things that we've learned as a newly married couple, things that we didn't expect to be an issue, different things like that. So today's topic is, how do you step parent?
And we're not pros at this, so we're just giving information. We ain't telling y'all to follow this, or we know what we're doing. We're just telling you our journey.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so like I said, today's topic is, how do you step parent? So a little bit of content or backstory. We just got married. It's been 3 years, and we were high school sweethearts. So, we came back together after 24 years. Now, we both came into this marriage with kids. My children are 25 and 20, and his kids are, his youngest is what, 21?
21.
So he has 6 kids, I have 2. His kids are ranging from the youngest being 21 to the oldest
29.
Okay, so when we got married, my youngest was 15, his youngest was 17. So everybody else was already grown, which means, like I said, we've been married 3 years. It'll be 4 years in September. In my mind, I thought it would be easy because all of his kids are pretty much grown. He just had his youngest son. And, my oldest daughter was already an adult. So, I just had my baby. So coming into it, in my mind, I'm thinking, these kids have pretty much been raised. We shouldn't have an issue. Well, when it comes to trying to discipline or say anything to each other's kids, so let's go ahead and start there. We only had 2 of the children that had to live in a house with me and him, which is my youngest daughter and his youngest son. So that already was something in its own. Like I said, his son by then was 18, 19 almost. So he was already pretty much grown. I don't feel like I have the right to go in and just say stuff to him. However, you are under my roof, our roof, so I should be able to say stuff. So I had always told my husband, if we ever fall out, it's going to be behind our kids. So whenever it's time to say something, like if he has something that he needs to say to my daughter, he won't go and directly tell her. If it's something with the car, he'll come and be like, hey, you need to tell Kiesha, that the speaker blown in the car, or if one of the lights come on the dash, she need to let us know then. I'm like, no, you go tell her. So he doesn't feel like he needs to go tell her, even though they communicate, they talk. So it's just one of those things. He won't go say anything. So sometimes I'll just call her in the living room and be like, hey, come here. He got something he needs to tell you. Then go ahead and put him on the spot so he can say it. Now, we did have an issue where he applied certain rules for his son that I didn't allow for my daughter, which created some complications because they both under the same roof. You allow rules that I never would have set, but
I mean, she never did this before, so I done did this. You know what I'm saying? So out of my 6 kids, 2 of them wasn't mine, but I raised them like they was mine. They're mine. You know what I'm saying? Can't nobody tell me nothing different. So I already had this relationship done where I had to co-parent with other people, even though their fathers wasn't in their lives, right? At the beginning or whatever, right? So their fathers wasn't in their lives. So for me, it was different. So as a man, as I come in, I don't have to discipline no children, right? Somebody else's children. I don't have to discipline them. I would tell the other parent or my mate that, hey, this is what this is how I do it. This is how I, want this done. I'm gonna tell the parent because, for instance, when you have older children, then you don't have, like I say, we came in this relationship with older children. They already raised. I can't come in and raise them. I don't want to be coming in the bad person. We're in a relationship together. You see what I'm saying? If I have something wrong that her child is doing or anything like that, come tell me. You see what I'm saying? And I'm gonna handle it, right? Just the same way, that's how I feel about it. If she has something wrong, come tell me. I'm gonna handle it. If I have something wrong, ain't no reason me coming in and being a bad parent. You know what I'm saying? She's not already been raised. The child has already been raised. So what is it like me coming in, putting in my rules that, as far as going head to head with, a child, that she gonna be like, or he, this ain't how I was, this ain't how I was raised, this. Okay, but you know, now that I'm with my wife, this is what, you know, this is. You know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to re-raise you, but if you're gonna stay in my house or whatever the case may be, hey, this is the rules that we got going on. So it ain't no need for me going to be the bad parent. Hey, I asked my wife, you know, I don't want this done. Like she just said, for my son, which she doesn't have a son, you see what I'm saying? Which is two different, totally raisins of a son and a woman and a girl. Hey,
that's the issue right there.
That right there.
Two totally different raisins. The way
right
they
there.
were being raised.
I raised my girls about the same way she raised her girls. That's real talk. But that son, yeah, I gotta be, you know, a little bit more harder and a little bit more lingering on stuff like that. I mean, we get into it, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, but we gotta talk about it between us, right? Be like, we're gonna say an issue, you know what I'm saying? Son, I hope you ain't watching this, but hey, if you is, you know this is. But listen, I ain't allowed no girl, no chicken head, this coming over the house. Shit, I'm with, long as she ain't staying the night, you know what I'm saying?
I'm not for it though. I didn't allow my daughter to have men over. Not to mention, now, I don't know these little girls. Now, hold on.
Let me
go ahead.
Finish.
Okay.
Now, and y'all might say this is contradiction or whatever. You can say whatever you want to say. My girls, I told them they couldn't date till they was 17. My son was 18. So she didn't understand that. So that was my raising, right? They can have boyfriends at school. I ain't care about none of that because I can't control that. You see what I'm saying? But that going on dates, going on movie dates, and actually call and sit on the phone, 17 was for me. You see what I'm saying? All my daughters know that, right? 17. Then we can meet. I can take you over there. They can come over here. You know, that was my rule, right? So when I came in, I had to let her know, hey, shit, 17 was the boy. My son 18. Of course he can have a girl over here. She can't spend the night. You see what I'm saying?
And she there when we not there? And we don't
I
know
have
her?
no problem with that. Hey, he called me. That's what that was a problem. He called me and say, my girlfriend coming over. I'm cool with it. Go on, bring her over. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, go on, bring her over. But then I had to go back and tell her, shit, when did you come to my house?
We ain't even talking about that.
No, see, that's what I say. That's what parents go out and do. You want your kids to do better. Don't get me wrong. You want your kids to do better. But don't go out of the, you know, too much of the shit that we did, because we was together at my house at what age?
We couldn't close the door, just like we couldn't close the door at my mama's house.
Well, I didn't ask you that. I said, when did you come to my mama's house? 16?
Okay.
16 years old.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
We are not them. And we're not raising the same kids the way we were raised. So
we got to be a little, you know, like what I say, but like I said, that was my raising and her raising. And I can't tell her raising is wrong, just like she can't tell me mine is wrong, right? Because all our kids are good. As far as, you know, adults and what, respectful and all that. That's just what that is. You see what I'm saying? Of course, kids going to be bad. Ain't no kids on this, you know, on this earth that just real angel and this and that. They gonna keep shit from you and this type of shit. So we can miss with all that. All kids are bad. We was bad. You know what I'm saying? But the co-parent, I mean the parenting with, you know, other children in the house, I had already dealt with it. So she hasn't at all. You see what I'm saying? She was the king and queen. And
I sure was. Nobody overrode my decision in my previous relationship. Nobody overrides my decision when it comes to them kids but God. That's it. Nobody could tell me nothing different. Nobody could override what I was saying. What I said went. That's just how it was. So yes, maybe it's a little control thing. So, and he's right. I never had to be a step parent before. And then, like I said, actually, I don't think it really crossed my mind in that matter. You know, like I said, his kids were pretty much, everybody's already grown. So I didn't really think that it would come to where it might be a conflict of interest, should I say, you know? So I didn't think that it would be something like that. And then we would bump heads behind it. So we won't bump heads behind us, but we'll bump heads when it comes to them kids. So you just, I mean, my point is, if you're trying to step parent, at what point, what are you allowed to say? What advice are you allowed to give? Okay, I know with his kids being grown, I'm never allowed to just go in and try to discipline them. These are adults at this point. Am I allowed to provide advice or feedback, or, you know, where do I even stand with that? What am I exactly allowed to say or, you know, do? How does that even work? Because, like I said, the age group, It's a lot of women out there that really would just go to the, you know what, I know I don't want nobody telling my kids what to do. So instead of finding somebody good that can come in and help you balance that and co-parent, you really just say, F that, because you on the same stuff your kids on. Nope, can't nobody, I ain't letting nobody tell them what to do. That ain't they daddy. So how does that work? At what point, what obligations or what can a step parent actually do?
I mean, that what she just said is a hard one because luckily, like I said, our kids are not bad. But let's just say we came in this relationship and one of her kids was bad and one of mine was bad, like terrible. I'm talking about terrible, where they didn't really listen to you as the mama and daddy, right? And they bringing problems into your relationship. Then I can't speak on that because on the cool, I probably wouldn't be in that relationship because I don't want to tear her from her child. You see what I'm saying? So if that's going to be a major problem because we got this terrible child, then there's no need for us to keep on doing this relationship, or maybe we need to move out and do a relationship like that. Because once you move in, that's a whole different story. You see what I'm saying? That's a whole different story. Because if we went on dates, we going on dates. That means movies here, we might go get a room and spend the night together, whatever. You ain't worried about nothing. But when you live together, that's when it becomes a problem. You see what I'm saying? If you got that terrible child, right?
So you choose not to have a serious relationship because you know that your child might be an issue or start stuff. So you really choose to be like, hey, let's just go on and remain separate, but together at the same time. But for the sake of the kids, I already know my child not going to listen and your child not going to listen. So we just going to stay separate in separate houses, but we going to be together. But that's kind of like, that's the same thing. You really just.
But if you bring that in there, then what? If you bring that in there, you bring your terrible child, I bring my terrible child in here, and it's bumping heads. That's bumping heads with our relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, that's bumping heads with our relationship. See, we're in a relationship. Yes, we love each other's kids, and we like each other's kids whichever way it goes. But if I felt like, and it's not the issue here, if I felt like, damn, what did you do to that child? You know what I'm saying?
Then I'm gonna feel some kind of way because hold on, don't judge my parenting. But
there we go.
I said, so I guess that would be one of those things.
That's what I'm saying. But that you only have that problem when you move in together. You see what I'm saying? If you don't move in together, how you do your household, right? It's how you do your household. I can give you pointers or advice and be like, babe, I wouldn't let her do that. It ain't gonna be no big issue. But when we move together, then it becomes a big issue.
That's because under the same roof, I feel like if we under the same roof, I should be able to say something to your child just like you should be able to say something to mine. And just like I'm not crazy about giving different rules, rules that I wouldn't give to my daughter that he would give to his son. So, ooh, yeah. So see, I wouldn't be crazy about that.
But see, like she said, the different rules. You know which child is not going to listen to you. You know which child is going to be hard-headed. You know which child you're going to have to scream and cuss at or whatever the case may be. Or you could just talk to. So that's how you got. That's why I say the raising part is a big thing because this is how you raise your child. If you know, like let's just say she talks to her child, hey, don't do that.
That's not how I talk to my child.
Baby, I'm making an example.
Say, don't you? Yeah, that's not how I do either. Okay, go ahead.
Make an example. If that's how she do it, right? So you get this example because she interrupted me. Really like, baby, don't do that no more. Stop it. I told you this before. But if she tell me to, go say something, or if I come out and say like, what the hell, then that's two different tones on how she raised and how I raised. Do you see what I'm saying? So that becomes a big problem because she got the soft voice and I come in with this, they take it aggressive because I'm a man. I don't like how the way he yelled at me and this and that. You see what I'm saying? Huh?
Okay. I understand that. Now, what happens when you feel like that they don't discipline their child the way that I feel like they should be disciplined? So I'm like, wait a minute. No, that's just so if I'm like, wait a minute, I feel like you was a little too lenient on that. I feel like it should have been way more like, putting your foot down. I'm telling you, I feel like it should have been way more aggressive. I think it should have been handled, a little rougher.
See?
But that's the difference in right there. So what exactly? So that's the difference. So that step parents and stuff can get very tricky. And like I said, if I feel like I really don't even feel like you disciplined him. I feel like you went in there with a light conversation, and I feel like it should have been heavier. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you should have put your foot down. But you went in there with the conversation because you want to go in there and talk. No.
And see that'd be a big problem, like she said. But you got to go back to how you raised your child. Every child don't have to be yelled at. Every child don't have to be, some children you can be just talked to. You know what I'm saying? Some of you got to cuss out. You don't want to, but I know out of my 6 kids, I know, if I go yell at this one, you know what I'm saying? They probably gonna shut down and not listen. If I go talk to this one, they probably ain't gonna work. They want the yelling. So that's why I say it goes back to raising. So that's why I say I'm always big on, in my past relationship is if I have a problem, step raising a child, I'm gonna tell the parent. You see what I'm saying? And that parent, gonna relay the message on the way she raised. So I won't be coming out being the bad guy, but at the same time, it's stuff that we have to agree on. You see what I'm saying? So, like I said, we go back to the issue, like she said about my son. Okay, you don't want them to have women over there, or girls over there, right? No, we're not having girls coming in and out. She didn't want one girl. So let's get that understood. His girlfriend. Not no, you see, that's what I'm saying. So if she came to me saying, oh,
it was always while we weren't there.
Hold on, but
for one.
No, we already went past that.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is if she said, ooh, that little Dre got 5 or 6 women coming there. Hey, okay, that's a problem. That's already a problem with me, but I'm just saying if she came to me with that, that'd be already a problem. You know what I'm saying? But his one girlfriend that he calls his girlfriend, oh no, I don't have no problem with that. I'm gonna bring him. She don't have a son. Like I said, my girls but it was at the same age, my son, a little bit more, but would I be a little bit leaning on my son? Probably so. You know what I'm saying? That's just me as a dad to my son. My girls, yeah, it was probably, I would have gave my son probably a 16, 17, a 16, I probably gave my girls at the 17 age. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, it's a little bit different, and that's my raising though. But her, I don't think she allowed it at all. You know what I'm saying? Point blank, period. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Yeah, she didn't allow it. So there we come with this compromise. You know what I'm saying? We talk about it. I tell her, well, ain't nothing wrong with it. You know what I'm saying?
We didn't really compromise. We talked about it. It was a decision that he decided to make that you know what? It was kind of inevitable. It was either get on board with it or constantly fight about it. So I was on board with it. Not so much as compromise. I never liked it, but I did go ahead and allow it because that was your rule. And just like that's my house, that's your house. So I can't really go there. So
you got to understand where we had to compromise. She said she just let it go, right? But let's just say you allow your daughter, right, to go to her boyfriend's house, right? But you wouldn't allow the boyfriend to come to the house. Does that make sense, y'all? Does that make sense? Do you see what I'm saying? This is why I said
she had a boyfriend that I had already met and I had approved of. For one, I'm not going to say I would have been completely against him being able to come to the house. What I am against is him coming to that house while I'm not there.
Well, but she called you.
I don't care about her calling me. We be way out of state sometimes. I'm not playing that. No, not while I'm out of state. When I come back home, then sure. See, come on over.
This is what a compromise.
Yeah. See, I don't like all of that.
This is what a compromise.
When I'm way somewhere else, it's not like I'm up the street at the grocery store. This is me being in another state. So no, I would not have allowed it in that manner.
So this is what
when I'm there, then okay, I can make sure the door open. Go with certain precautions or things that I would go with. So no, I wouldn't have just went with that.
So you gotta trust in your kids.
Okay, but
so what is the problem? That's what. See, and this is what we got in. We didn't get into it, but I'm just saying. We talking to y'all some real shit. So this is where it becomes a problem. So open that door so you can have that talk with them. I'll tell her about her child. Of course she can have a boyfriend over. I have no problem with that. If we go, what?
No.
We're talking about young teenagers.
That's fine. What we're talking about.
Young adults.
But
we're talking about young adults above age too. Above age. See, like right now, if she came. See, this word would be a problem, right? Listen to it. If her daughter came to me, which I'm not her daddy, right? She came to say, can my boyfriend come over while y'all over in California? Cool. Run it by your mama.
Yes, please.
But look, her mama gonna say,
hell to the no.
See? And that's where.
Matter of fact, that would take a whole lot of time and a whole lot of build-up. So, yes, she's not a teenager anymore, so she is 20. But still, ain't nobody laying up in this house but me. Let's go. We're not
So,
doing that.
hold
So
on.
wait a minute.
So
I
we
was-
ain't had this. We ain't never had this happen.
We ain't come
so,
to this yet.
So we haven't had this. So you telling me
What?
your baby at 20 years old asking her boyfriend come over?
And I don't know this man.
No, real talk.
No, for real. I ain't met him.
You met him?
Okay.
You met him?
And see, that would take a big toll. I would have to meet him and get my own feel of him. But it wouldn't be no.
Okay, you met him.
It wouldn't.
It don't matter. You met him.
And they have been dating how long?
It don't matter.
No,
you
they
met
have
him.
been dating a long time.
No. You met him.
Not while I'm gone. Not while I'm gone.
You got a 20-year-old.
Okay. She can go her 20-year-old cell phone out to eat with him. They can go to the movie.
This where the parenting.
Come on, you need to come on back to the house.
This is where the parenting can become a problem because you know what I'm saying. She raised her child how she raised. I'm not saying she wrong. We discussing it, but it's not no wrong. I can't tell her you wrong. But to me, there's nothing wrong with that. Her daughter at 20 years old calls her mama and say, hey. Which you done met the boyfriend and say, hey, can I come over? Can Mike come over? You see what I'm saying? If she asks me, I have no problem with that.
It depends on how I feel about this person after I've met them, what kind of vibe I've got. Then I would take all of that into consideration.
That's also
yes,
good.
I would take all of that into consideration. But like I also would feel more comfortable if they came over when I was in town, just to make sure.
You're never there.
Okay,
you're never there.
Sometimes we are there.
Yeah, but you're never there. You're never there.
Okay.
So
well, I would figure that out. Like I said,
you're never there.
Oh my God!
Hold on, we play it out.
No,
but it ain't never been
because
she haven't came to this. She has not.
And then when it comes to that, then when I come to that bridge and it's time to cross it, then I'll handle that accordingly. And like I said,
but if everything you say is good, you still will allow it then.
Possibly.
There we go.
Possibly.
There we go.
I'm not gonna say I wouldn't,
there
but
we go.
I'm not gonna automatically jump to say I would either, because I know how I am.
But there we go. This is her assumption of everything that she done felt about the boy, her daughter relationship, and she would make that decision.
You didn't know that girl.
Yeah, I did. So
I didn't know her, and that was the roof that I was paying for, so I don't think I cared for that at all.
I didn't know that.
I had never met her, didn't know her from the chicken Walmart.
Here we go.
So, okay, but that's neither here nor there. Like I said, that's step parenting part that you don't take into consideration, but okay, so just to go ahead and get ready to wrap this up because this went way longer than I had anticipated. So for you guys, do you think it's better if you come in while the kids are still toddlers and like elementary school? Do you think if you come in as a step parent there, you have more you have more of a right to try to groom them and help them grow, just to help them develop, where you can discipline and course correct them. You have more say so over how they're being raised because they are younger. So do you think it's easier if you come in when they're toddlers, or do you think it's easier if you come in when they're in their adolescent stage, when they're in between middle school? At that point, they can be a little feisty. That's where they, feeling they self. Then they come in with, you're not my mama, you're not my daddy. Do you really think it's easier to come in at that point? And, I'm going to let you go after I finish real quick. So do you think it's easier to come in through that middle school age? Or to me, I think that's one of the hardest stage. Or is it easier to come in when everybody's already adults? Your kid's grown, my kid's grown. I think that's probably, to me, technically, you would think that would be the easiest. I think what happens there is probably, let's say, if your kids are older and they feel like, your dad met this lady, they get married. A lot of times those kids will feel like, oh, she's taking advantage of my dad, even though those kids are grown. So y'all, there's really no input there. You can't say anything to these kids. They raising their own kids. So is it better when everybody is like really grown in their own lives, raising their own kids? Is it better when they're through that middle school age? Or do you feel like you definitely cannot course correct or say anything to these kids? Or is it better to come in when they are babies and infants, like he did with his, when he came into his, his stepkids' lives? They were toddlers, like practically newborns. So he was there their entire life. So yes, he can say stuff and course correct and punish, things like that. So which is better? At what point, what are you allowed to do as a step parent? When can you say something? When can you not say something? When is it crossing the line? Now, I will also say this. I've seen people in my life that have brought step parents into their kids' lives, and those step parents have taken those kids' lives. That is completely unacceptable, and I can see why a lot of people don't like to have don't like to invite nobody else into their lives while they still raising their kids for incidents like that. So just when do you think is a better time to come in? What are you allowed to do as a step parent that that's appropriate, and then also doesn't affect your relationship with your spouse so bad to where you feel like, hey, I'm just gonna throw in the towel. I've seen people get divorced over stepkids complications because at some point they like, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna take myself out the situation. Clearly you're not gonna let me try to help you raise these kids. They disrespectful to me, they disrespectful to you, and I'm supposed to sit back and watch them disrespect you. So I've seen people get divorced over this. So what do you guys think? And I'll go ahead and let my husband say what he has to say.
Man, that was long, but basically, look, hey, you gotta know your mate for one, and how she raised her kids. You gotta know that, especially when you're dealing with a woman that has kids. You know what I'm saying? You can look at the kids and you can tell. You can look at how she does, and that's how it is. Because one thing for sure is that can be a big deal. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't like this for nobody to say nothing to their kids, and that's just what that is, right? No matter if they raise them good, wrong, bad, or whatever, they think they're doing a good job. So they feel like, hey, you can't come in and tell me nothing about mine, right? Especially if you ain't raised no child that's just terrible. You know what I'm saying? You can't tell me. You know what I'm saying? They ain't terrible. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I say, for as like she says, grown and older, it doesn't. I don't think that really matters. It's how the woman or the man raises their children. You see what I'm saying? And what they do, because that's gonna tell you how that child is gonna be and what you gonna bring on into your life. You see what I'm saying? So if you know you got a good woman, you can pick that, or whether you choose not that. Same as the man. If you let your child be wilding out and all this and this and that, do you really want that as into your congregation? That's what I'm gonna call it. You know what I'm saying? So, because like I say, that can make a big thing. Hold on, I ain't through because you went about 13 minutes. Let me go. Let me cook. Okay, but anyway, so that's basically what it is. I mean, to each his own. You gotta really pick, because them step parenting can be a big issue in your relationship. It is what it is. You just gotta work on it. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully y'all can compromise, and y'all have the same morals and rules and everything like that. If you don't, it's gonna be hell. It just is. You really gotta talk about it. You know what I'm saying? To compromise with it too. You gotta compromise with it.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get this wrapped up. Thank you guys for tuning in, and always remember that love can be both cheap and expensive, meaning it can cost you nothing or it can cost you everything. Bye.
Bye.